The sorts of things I talk about having to do with topography, binary sight, binary possibilities. If any of you had ever looked at it in this manner, you shouldn't be at all surprised, amazed, concerned, surprised, hardly even interested. That, as I keep pointing out, and as you can see for yourself, that life seems to be sufficiently divided up into duos. You should not find that interesting. I've tried to make you find it interesting, and some of you should have found it interesting, that, wow, it does seem to cover it. It shouldn't be that, nor should it be, when I push it a little further, it should not be surprising or interesting at all that there's not the possibility of three commonly available and obvious. I've tried to make you look at it that way. Here's what you should find interesting, is why the hell are not things arranged to where one is sufficient? That should be it. Before I go into that any deeper, I had a whole list. Things have piled up over the last few, whatever you call these things. I'm going to give you, run down some of the ones that I have never said anything about specifically and see what we can make of it. I am going to say something a little more directly upon the money regarding why it is that one does not seem to be available, that there is not one instead of the duos, instead of the lack of three, which I have pointed out to you is the only way the ordinary consciousness pushed to its possible furthest extremes in this life can make any sense, can actually understand what's going on. But before we do that, how about some of the duos, some of the interesting splits that seem to be, although I hadn't given you a written exam, but if you are indeed hearing some of this, that not just because I bring them out, because they're just common words, I'm not trying to make it any more intricate than it is, but when I bring it out and try to get you to look in the way in which I've been doing, for you to look at some area and I say, notice, it's divided up into this and that. And isn't it weird, if you can follow me at all, to want to put your hands on life and say, why are things arranged like this, and then be struck that those two, as far as your consciousness can go, those two cover it all. And it's always two cover it all. Why? And of course, it's not a verbal why, because there is no verbal answer. But there is a reason. There is a verb at work. There is a process at work. And it should strike you in several ways that it is curious, to use just a word, that everything that you can talk about, morality, money, wealth, poverty, goodness, gracious, great ball, any subject that you can pick out, health, progress, involution, evolution, temperature, the humidity, anything you pick out has what? It's divided up into twos. To say anything other than if you say, hey, let's talk about the temperature. Let's pick out something and talk about the temperature. I pick the subject and you say, okay, go. And I say, well, no, I picked the subject, what can we say? Let's get it going. What's the first thing you're going to say about the temperature? Is it hot enough for you? What a way with a phrase you have. Isn't it awfully cold today? And that seems to, if you think about it, which is not that hard, it's just curious because you begin to look into the joints in life's body itself, that there's always the necessity of a dual comment. Two possibilities. Not only is that interesting and really curious, once you begin to get your hands on life, not just listen to me talk. Not only is that curious, but as I said, there are more curiosities inherent therein or parallel thereto, that there's always two, and when I think about it, there's got to be two. One wouldn't get it. But then I think about it another way, and you don't need three. You only need two. It's either hot or cold. It's either up or down. It's either this or that. Trying to keep some of that in mind, in case some of these I may hit and run. I may not go into them very deeply, but they were all interesting enough that I had filed them away in whatever you call this, sort of, that someday I was going to bring them out. And I decided just to throw a whole bunch of them together tonight that I have never stopped along the way and done a long paragraph about. With some duos that very specifically, I didn't just look in some dictionary. There's not a book called The Dichotomy of Life that I know about, Dichotomy of City Life. But these are specific ones that life brought to my attention. Appreciate it. For very specific reasons, as I said, I filed away in this, whatever you call it, that someday, and it was going much further. 30 minutes, an hour on each one of these, perhaps. But rather than that, I thought I would just start with them. Just try to drag them up out of this. I know it starts with an M, not mind. What is it your mind does? Mesmerizes, no? Mutilates, no? Mulches. Memory. I'm just going to bring them up and we'll see. But it's one specifically. The only reason for all that was that even if I do not spend a lot of time with any particular pair of these, that there was something specifically that I had in mind to try and push you towards had I done it more extensively. And this does not preclude that someday in the future I may. Thank you. Some of the duos that I find that you should find interesting. Consider the first pair of duos. Seems to be a difference between what is said and what is heard. Now, I say, of course, seems to be a difference. Ordinary people say, well, hell, there is a difference. And chances are there's probably a book or more in the psychology section of somebody trying to deal with this on the psychological basis that people say things, and then there is a psychological malfunction, a dynamic at work, wherein people hear not necessarily exactly what was said. Big deal, right? Because of psychological problems, because you spoke too loud, because they were distracted. We're supposed to be past that point. I keep hoping you people are. We're not playing, that's for children. Life is up to something for people to believe. When I wave my hand and say we're children, not children anymore, I'm not making fun of life because you can start on that basis, which is what I'm doing, that out there in life people believe that. They would believe, yes, there is a difference, oft times, or at least sometimes, between what is said by a person. Let's get it down to a good workable level. A person says something and another person hears something else. All right. Now get past this psychological malfeasance. Why is it that life has things arranged that way? Twee, not. Well, many times a father will say, you're not going to leave this house until you cut the grass. And then later, hours later, he's looking, the grass is not cut, and the sun's gone, and later that night, 1 o'clock, he comes dragging in, his father's ready to raise hell. He says, no, I thought you said cut the grass tomorrow. And the father says, no, you didn't. You can't be. And the son says, I did. What are you going to do? Kill me? You're going to beat me for... I thought you did. I'm prepared to cut the grass tomorrow. I'm not doing anything tomorrow. And so there stands the father, and he goes, am I being had again? Is that the same... is that the same kind of stuff I did to my... All right, you know all that. Here's what you got to begin to see. The really obvious. Why in the God's name, to coin my own figure of speech if you think I can't do it, why in Larry's name is life arranged to where there's this possibility? If there's some reason, whatever the damn reason, that the father, the guy paying the money, feeding this kid, wants the grass cut, that he says, cut the grass before you go. What's going on that the kid said he didn't hear it? Now, again, don't fall into the pseudo-obvious that, hey, well, the kid wanted to leave. He had something better to do, so he played like it. You're missing it. If you're going to fall in that, you might as well be a psychologist. Still, what's life up to? Why are things so arranged that this happens? That there is observably, demonstratively, acceptably in the city, that there is a difference. So we need the terms what is said as opposed to, and are, what is heard. That is a whole area to investigate, to consider. If you find yourself continually misunderstanding your boss, your wife, your husband, then it is an area into which you should investigate. You should look for your own interest. And so you've got these terms, and people do believe, quite ordinary people, that there is some dynamic, there are some mechanics at work that could be of some import to an individual. But there is that which is said and that which is heard. Twee, twee, twee. To what end? Why? Why is this so? Why is there the possibility? Let me go back now and use city terms again. That which is heard, the person says, well, I misunderstood. I did not understand what you said. I do now, but I did not understand what you said. Why is life using that? Why are things arranged in that way? And it is not simply on the basis, if you said what I warned you about, that the son, or a person that says, I misunderstood you, then they had their own agenda going, and they were trying to serve their own selfish interest, and so they said, they lied, right? Lied. They said, I misunderstood. Now, if you said what you say you're saying now, all right, I'm not going to call you a liar. If you say you said that, I did not hear that. Don't fall into the pseudo-obvious and say, well, that's possible. That's either possible or the person is lying, that they had their own schedule going and they didn't want to hear it. I ask you again, can't you begin to, if you can't feel it yet, can't you begin to look at these lumps that's known as life coming through this fabric, and it begins to strike you that there is some gigantic, let's just call it a something, like Kyroots mentioned, that a lot of people, there's some people in the city absolutely positively, sometimes partially, on a good day, are almost totally, in a sense, convinced that something may happen. If you can look around, something has happened. But it's not what everybody says. What everybody else says, they got different words for it, but it comes down to this. In the city, people know something's happened, and they call it by so many things that we can't even name them. Just look in the dictionary. But it comes down to this. In the city, what they're saying is, yeah, I know something has happened, and it's, I don't know. It's inexplicable. It's not inexplicable, except to most people. And this is one place to start, as to what possibly could be going on. And I'm even aware of editing and censoring and timing myself for the last 10 minutes. I know that this can appear to be going in a spiral or going in directions that seem like I left and then I came back, or I left, and some of you may have thought I hadn't come back to it yet, or that you keep thinking I'm pointing out something that's going to really strike you, and then you think, nah, all he's doing is covering the obvious, and then some of you think, well, he's really going to get something good, but Jesus, I thought I had it, and I'm not even close. I can't make any sense out of it. Now, that's a wide spread, take in all sorts of possibilities, and it's not me trying to be funny, not me trying to be pseudo-complex. It is the nature that life has so many bumps. There's so much that people think they see that they don't see. And without knowing any more, if you just begin to get a glimpse of that, it should strike you as the great twee, is why is it this way? Why is it that man is the splendid, sterling, if not electroplated creature? The one with the brain. And it's him. Him among all creatures, including the great ones, ducks and dogs. But it's only him that apparently can be confused. Only him. Only him. That he's the one that's got this guiding light, this beacon, this searchlight, this lighthouse, a superior intelligence plumbing the depths of science, philosophy, reaching for the stars. And it's only him that's confused. You don't find that interesting at all. Why is it necessary? What is life doing that quite ordinary people, not us, not just you, but ordinary people, would accept, if I describe it this way, that is a duo of some importance in the city. That is, things that are said as opposed to, are, and are. Things that are said, and then the things that are heard. What is going on? And it's not an individual problem. It is not a dynamic of some psychological nature involving those two parties of a man and a woman. a husband and a son. Two people that's trying to strike a business deal. It is not them. That's why I left some of you when I was saying that you could say, if you were an ordinary sophisticate from the city, you could say, all right, the son said that he didn't understand the father said right now because he had a hot date waiting. It's understandable. But then you believe, if you're going to do that, you're stuck with this, that all individuals do have their own agenda. That people do have the ability to suddenly, at a moment's notice, at any given cut-off time, and they decide, I know what I'll do. I'll have me a hot number waiting. In that case, if my father tells me to do something, I'll just hear him. You got to believe that. And of course, to believe that, you have got to be almost terminally childish. You are blind, you're just stuck with city consciousness to believe that. It just shows that you have not the slightest notion of the noises and the fumes and electrical activities taking place in you. None. None, none, none. Just none. The only thing that you, quote, know about you read it in a book. Which, of course, in the city seems to be it. You know, what better way to know about yourself? Read a book. That's really, I guess, nowadays second best. The first best is to pay somebody to tell you. An astrologer, a priest, a psychiatrist is to pay somebody. I always like graphologists to write down something and send it off to somebody with $20, and they send it back and tell you who you are. And that's great. That they could do that just look at my handwriting. And they got me. They said I'm a little confused, basically a nice guy. How did they do that? You laugh. Some of you, I bet before I met you, I ain't going to ask for a hand raising. Some of you sent off, and you paid your $20, and you didn't laugh then. You looked, and you thought, what a bargain. Great potential, yet to live up to full same. Always hoping for a better tomorrow, and you think, how could they do that? You laugh now. They're not laughing in the city. They don't laugh at priests. Catholics don't laugh at priests. Jews don't laugh at rabbis. Those in analysis paying $200 an hour, they don't laugh at psychiatrists. And of course, above all, in the city, serious people do not, and I repeat, I cannot stress this too strongly, serious people do not laugh at themselves. And of course, there are problems which are synonymous. There's nothing funny about problems in the city. There's nothing really funny about city people. Back to where I left you. You can believe, if you're ordinary, that there is a difference between what some people say and then what somebody else hears, but it's on the basis that the person who says, well, I didn't hear you correctly, had their own project in mind, and they didn't want to hear. You see, you really missed it. Because if you knew anything about you, then you'd know something about the way the human nervous system is wired up in everyone, and you know that that's not the case. After the fact, the person can say, or somebody else can say, well, I know what happened. My son had a hot date. He didn't want to cut the grass. That's not even obvious. That's pseudo-obvious. In the city, that's sufficient. Now, of course, it doesn't solve anything. The father stays mad. He picks on the son. He grounds him for a week. And it has all kinds of ramifications. It makes his girlfriend mad. It makes some other guys mad that they were going off and use the car together before his date next Saturday to go to a ball game. And the ripples go on, and everybody in the city stays itchy. In other words, it's not the end. When they say, all right, that explains it. He had a date. That's why he said he didn't hear you. All right, the pseudo-obvious, that would almost sound like, all right, that answered your question. You want to know why some people say something and other people don't hear it? There's a great example. The son had something else to do. He didn't want to hear it. Case closed, period. But does that close it? You know it doesn't. Not only that, it doesn't answer anything. But it doesn't even close the case. The only thing that closes the case in the city, that's it. And then it only closes it with one party because the ripple's still going everywhere else. Life has a greater project going on. I wasn't going to answer all these for you, when I bring out these duos, but I'm going to leave this one at this point. Life has something going on a greater scale, not a two-dimensional, not a three-dimensional, at least a four-dimensional that you can see, of which you can become aware. A greater scale wherein its own operations, its own organization, of which we're all a part, it requires, the way things are arranged now, it requires that there be the distinction between that which one set of molecules, passing off as an individual human, says, under continuing, ever-changing, but continuous circumstances, that another party later says, I didn't hear, no, that's not what I heard you say. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know what you thought you heard me say, but I know what I said, and now you're telling me, and that's not what I said. Well, that's what I heard you say. You may have heard that, but that's not what I said. Would you like to dance? Another one. The inner and the outer self. Although this is not the most commonly used terms, I guess, in the city, but if I present it to the cities as a whole right quick, they would hear what I was saying, that there is indeed seems to be two primary ways, two primary ways that a person might attempt to better themselves, right? I'm going to work on my inner self, and I'm going to work on my outer self. The obvious ones being, the inner self, I'm going to become more religious or take up chanting or meditation. Working on the outer self, I am going to drop 10 pounds. I'm going to start working up to the point that next spring I'm going to run, or whenever it is, the Boston Marathon. I'm going to give up sugar, quit eating meat. God, I'll be a lot better person. There's no doubt about it. I just know it. And the two, although I know that nowadays some human conversation falling into that great area that I suggested to you last time we met of a kind of non-hostile mockery, but I'm aware of the fact that there are people now who say that parts of life's body has people saying that if you're in better shape, you'll in fact feel better psychologically. It's not brand new, but I know that some people are taking credit now that this is a fairly new attempt to bring together the erstwhile dichotomy of mind and body, and now we're beginning to understand that a healthy mind, a healthy body will produce a more healthy mind. Or if you've got a healthy mind, it makes you want to have a healthy body. This sounds new, and it sounds like, I guess, that I don't know, but there must be a magazine by now known as The Philosophy of Running. Any of you who have read enough, which that's not the point, such an idea is really new. It's not over 5,000 years old, but it's like a rediscovery of it. Back to the point. Well, there's nothing gained. I'm not making fun. It's just that it's just in a new guise now, new terms. But there seems to be two distinct ways. And somebody, once I brought this out, somebody's nervous system, their own consciousness could say, well, all right, I hear what you're saying, but it should be both. Maybe. We're back to me asking you, Twee, why is it that there seems to be the possibility that you could distinctly, precisely, work on your outer self, that there is such a thing? They might say, well, you're just saying the body. And if I was fucking around the city, I guess I'd say, oh, okay, just the body. And that's all right. You can work on the body, but you can't scoff at that. It's good for you. Well, if it's good for you, it's good for you. In the city, that's an accident. Why is it that there seems to be, without any doubt, without any discussion, two distinct, separate ways for one to work on oneself, to better oneself? Forget what the general guise. It doesn't have to be under some religious vexillium. It doesn't have to be apparently a philosophical undertaking that has a label to it, that a person just simply feels, I want to change myself, I want to do better. You got to pick out one of the two. And that's not even what we're trying to get to tonight. I'm trying to get you to consider, why is it that way? And why does that seem right? Even if you thought, well, that's not right. You should do both. You know, don't be a smart aleck. You might hear in the bushes too long. I'm saying back in the city, why are things arranged to where when ordinary consciousness hears that, yeah, that's it. That about covers it. they could be sarcastic with me. What else are you going to do? You're asking us, I'm speaking for the city people now, you're asking us why are things arranged to where you can apparently work to better yourself as your outer self or your inner self. And city people would go, what else do you want from us? What else am I going to better? My isosceles side? My right angle self? That covers it. I only got two sides. I only got two selves. I got the inner part and the outer part. What do you want me to do? You should find that curious. Curious, first off, that there seems to be the need to have to. Because I say the city consciousness can't find this curious. I keep trying to play your part for you, and it's there. You should hear yourself. It does not find this curious. It finds it to be just what I did, almost sarcastic in reaction to what I'm saying, like, point out the obvious to us, dumbass. We only got two sides, the inner and the outer. But see, you missed it if you believe that. You're wired up, you and everybody, to accept that. You should find that curious. Then you should find it curious, wait a minute. If we're going to keep playing with these duos, there's got to be a third possibility. Where is it? How are you going to help yourself? How is anybody going to work on themselves? Well, I can work on my outer self, or I can work on my inner self, or I can... And that about covers it. It doesn't just about cover it. That covers it like a Seville Row suit, like you have been hand measured in Hong Kong. It is just a perfect fit, not a wrinkle, not a tear in a seam. Work on your inner self, your outer self. Next, that's it. To what ends does the nervous system accept that? Accept it and find it to be the minimal statement, and simultaneously find it to be the maximal verbal exposure of what's involved with oneself and helping oneself. Either work on your outer self or your inner self. And that's it. Of course, if that's it, then this line in which everyone's standing does stop where you think it stops. And you may find out that God indeed's name is Oscar Mayer. How about another one? Some weeks or months back when this one struck me, I was going to use, if I was going to talk about it more, I was going to start off with the example I believe, if I recall, and if I don't recall what I remember, then who does? Anatomy and physiology. Two sterling, if not at least bronzed subjects in med school, I guess even available in pre-med or undergraduate. Why do we need both? Not other than the fact that have two professors making a salary instead of one. Why? And here's what I was going to translate that into. I could have used other examples. I could have used, I guess, grammar and rhetoric, couldn't I? Or rhetoric and syntax. Grammar and rhetoric, I guess, would have covered it. But anyway, anatomy and physiology, here's what they're doing. We're talking about the human body. There's two major classifications. What they're describing is what it is and how it works. Why can't one of those do it both? Why have you got to have two? Why is not the former sufficient? Why do you have to go take a full course in what something is, and then get through with that and go, phew, and they say, well, now, this year, what do you mean this year? These next 2 quarters, now that you have sufficiently, well, almost, sort of, now that you sufficiently passed that, now you can study how they work. Well, what have I been studying? I spent 6 months memorizing all these diagrams of livers and spleens and colons and other unspeakable atrocities going on inside of myself. Barely got through it without getting sick. And now you're going to tell me I got to spend another 6 months about how they work. Because think about it. When they were describing the liver, they didn't just describe. Don't worry about whether you were in pre-med or not, you can change this to other areas, but if somebody's describing the liver, even in high school health class, they still have them. They tell you something. They don't just say, well, the liver is this big old brown ugly looking thing that weighs about 7 pounds, and it's actually the largest organ in the body. It's larger than the brain. I used to know alcoholics that liked that one fact. They felt like evidently there was some hope that my liver knows what it's doing. It wants some more alcohol. At any rate, and you do know this is not an attack on the world of academia or the field of medicine, the study of medicine, because it's true in all sorts of other areas. I just picked out anatomy and physiology because they're constantly referred to together, and it's just an accepted. Nobody questions it, that you've got to spend a certain length of time learning the body, what it is. That's anatomy, just what the hell it is. So then you get through with that, and then you study how it works. Now, you could have the same thing. It probably wouldn't cost as much or go on as long. You go over here to a tech school to take automobile mechanics. And what's the first thing they're going to teach you? We'll say that your field is going to be in gasoline internal combustion engines, as opposed to I don't know what. I always like that. They combust externally. At least that teaches people a lesson. They got too close to your car, including yourself. They teach you the nomenclature, the anatomy of the engine. Study, study, study. I guess for a quarter maybe, whatever they do at tech schools. And then you get through, and they say, now you can go on, next quarter, the operations. How these things work. Why? What is life up to? And it's not simply some arbitrary division. It's everywhere. That first off, people apparently have to be told about nouns and then verbs. I'm sorry, I got confused. I didn't mean to say that. No. It has to be about what it is and then how it works. I don't talk about English anymore. You people convince me about it. I'm not going to try to use language on you people anymore. We have better success with animal husbandry. What it is and then how it works. Why is this duo necessary? And again, I suggest to you, consciousness finds it to be just right. That if you wanted to take up, that you're always interested in how an engine works. Just a car, you just do money at mechanics all your life, and you go over there and they tell you, all right, first off, 1 quarter here, you can be here 3 nights a week, we're going to teach you all the parts. The anatomy of the engine. We're going to teach that to you, here's the book. And then next quarter, when you successfully pass this, we'll begin to actually go into the operations. And it just seems exactly right. Exactly right. As always, that just about covers it, and it just barely covers it. But it absolutely covers it. It couldn't be less, and it couldn't be, there's no need to be any more. In fact, you can't even find where any more is. The duos always cover it. What is the difference? Now, here's where it really gets tricky when I start bringing this in. For me to say, what's the difference? I've always said what the difference. I can say what the difference is as well as they would describe in the school catalog. Or some guy teaching the nomenclature of the engine and the other guy teaching the operations. But now I'm asking you on the basis of twee, on the basis really going into a little past the 4th dimension, to tell you the truth. But here's the question. There's no better way to put it. You just got to know that I'm talking about something else. What is the difference between what something is and how it works? Now in the city there's all the difference in the world. Well, there's enough difference that you've got to make a distinction. Everybody does. But I'm asking you, what is the difference? This is a fair question, if it was not so incomprehensible, about all duos. What's the difference between an inner and outer self? You can say, well, there's obviously one. Now I can say, all right, let's use you as an example. May I have some sort of instrument of your choosing so I can separate the two and we can discuss it in more detail so it's clear to my thinking and my sight? And of course, that's ridiculous. You're not going to separate my inner self from my outer self, or I'm not going to let you try it on me. Well, in that case, what is the difference? But there's obviously a difference, or everybody wouldn't accept there's a difference. There's got to be a difference between what is said and what is heard, right? Because one thing is a sound that one person makes, like an active thing they're doing, in the hearing part, right or wrong. The hearing part is a passive listening to it. Well, all right, let's separate the two. Let's have two courses here. We'll have that which is said and that which is heard. What is the difference? If I'm not losing too many of you again, you're getting to a place that you can't answer that. At first it sounds like you can. There's a difference between what you said and what I heard. Really? Well, where would you cut it? Where shall we operate? You didn't like cutting off your inner self from your outer self so we can investigate it. But here's one that obviously won't hurt, or apparently won't hurt anybody, that there is a difference, without any doubt, between what I said and what you heard. Right or wrong. Whether you thought you heard exactly, that's not it. That there is a difference, or we wouldn't have the terms. But where do we cut it? Halfway from my mouth to your ear? Is that where it was? You see? Now, it's ridiculous in the city, but it is not ridiculous. The question is just inexhaustible, because it can't be put into words as what is the difference? I guess I should have saved this for a closing, but I never have a real closing. The truth is, with any duo, there is no difference. That's why you've got to have to. But always ask yourself, if you can hear anything to this one question, of what is the difference? Now, this isn't a variation, it is an expansion, and it is the Herschel listing. I guess I'll let Kyroots try that one too many times, because hardly anybody ever laughed at that. At least it's better than a picture of a man out standing in his field. But it could still be, who's that man out there standing like that? And you say, well, that's Herschel listing. And don't anybody write me and tell me that it's not Herschel. I mean, you missed the whole joke already, so don't pick on that one part. Is what is the difference? Because in the city, everything operating with the ordinary human nervous system says all these duos I mentioned, there is a difference. You never even question it. It's just self-evident. There's a difference between what anybody says, what I'm saying, and what you're hearing. They may dovetail. If we could prove it, they may fit exactly. And then you might say, well, there's got to be some variation. Take any shot you want to. Take any general view you want to. But as far as you're concerned, there is a difference. And if you just thought back to it in a sense linguistically, logically, you'd say, well, there's got to be a difference or we wouldn't have two different terms for it. Right. I got you. I agree to all that. Now I'm asking you, though, get out of the city, damn it, get out of the gutter. What is the difference? Where are you going to distinguish? Where are you going to cut the contour between what I said and what you heard? Where? Where? Then why is it arranged that way? Why is there no question that there is a difference? Until you can know how to question it, and you say, what is the difference? And suddenly, you got as many answers as you've got humility dynamics in Germany. Going along, I was trying to mix some of these up and jump around. The dozen or so I can stand here and think of, I could lump them to where they seem to be more of a segue, but why should I start that now? So let's jump to another one. Why has life produced this? Another great duo. Governments and religions, which are, I will have to point out to you, those of you who have never clearly seen it, they are the same thing. They are power structures. They're dominant dancers. But why? Why? And I like to keep throwing this in because I know that many people's nervous system is wired up in such a way it's a good place for you to run the renewed risk or the continuous risk of getting captured. The part of your nervous system still has some kind of imagined distinct interest or feelings about religion, or maybe some of you, politics. And they're the same thing. I mean, it's just, if you had insight at all, you'd understand why are the basis of these great philosophical questions, these great historical conundrums of how could such and such an estrangement between some political body at some time and some religious group happen. It's inevitable. religions are just governments without a king, usually. They're governments without guns normally, but they're governments. They're fighting to dance with a large group of people. Of course, you get into areas like the religions, the ones that survive now, Christianity, and well, the ones who really proselytize Islam and Christianity, and I guess that about does it, doesn't it? The really pushy ones. They're past the point now of worrying about, we just want to take over Rome or the Holy Roman Empire. No, we want the world. Why? Generally, I went through all that to try and desensitize. Isn't that what they call it in the city? Any of you who still are trying to listen to your own nervous system and think, well, hey, there is some difference, and you must be speaking allegorically. Hell, I'm always speaking allegorically. That's the only way that you can decently reveal to people that you're telling tales, is to say, well, it's all allegory. Are you desensitized enough to just simply consider that all religions are a form of government? Now, if you don't like that, you should hear they're a form of dominance. They're institutions of domination. They're not alone, but they are synonymous. They're the same thing as the government, as I repeat, any of you who can't immediately grasp that, is why they seem to be in conflict so often, and why there are things that seem to be inexplicable in the history of man. They're inexplicable if you look back and your nervous system, which we're getting to the why now in just a minute. It's not that you were deluded. No, 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 no. No, no, no. You, the college professor, the guy who wrote the book, everybody. They write them different. You pick up whatever's the contemporary, sterling, if not at least aluminum brushed, history of mankind. 120 volumes. Whatever it is now, you'll find whole huge sections. If it's running in chronological order, which most history books I've noticed, I don't know why I seem to go that way, it'll continually break up. It'll get the big thing of the Romans, and they'll show how they fell apart, and then they'll attribute it to Christianity, and then the rise of Christianity, but they'll drop suddenly from governments, and they'll devote a whole volume to like the rise of Christianity. That is, religion, again, coming to prominence for the first time it came to worldwide prominence at the same time the downfall of the Roman Empire, that kind of stuff. Historians, that is, the nervous systems of the middle class, the bell curves of humanity, take religion as being different from government. Or else you wouldn't have two terms. I wouldn't have brought up why do we have the duo religions and governments. And so there seems to be these eternal conflicts. The Romans trying to put down the religions by saying you're worshiping false gods. We never heard of these gods. In fact, we knew who is Jehovah. We got our own gods. Don't give us trouble. You guys are just stirring up trouble. We don't like that kind of stuff. It's one government. It's one dominant dancing partner not liking a new one that's showing up on the scene. And it can't be explained historically to any ordinary yellow circuit person or even blue circuit's satisfaction back in the city of why is it the governments, right now, why are the Russians, let me bring it up to date, who do they think they're fooling? How long do they think that they can stamp out religion? Even though they're dealing with the Russian Orthodox, and it's pretty far removed from real religions like Baptist and Methodist. But even still, how heartless can they be? Those poor Russian people, and all they want to do, I see these little films, these poor old men and little old women, they want to go into a synagogue or a Baptist church, into the Russian Orthodox cathedrals, and do a little worship. And those heathens, those dirty Soviets, you're asking somebody to commit suicide. But the idea is, from places on life's body right now that are already wired up to be more religious, like I'm speaking for you, just generally in the Western world, that is just, I don't like their political system. That's bad enough to be communist. But they got no business stopping people from worshiping. What's that got to do with politics? All right. Now, I'm not sure how much I can get you people to get quickly out of that, but why are things arranged to where there is government and religion? Because I could describe it other ways, which I was trying to do and trying to get you to get some glimpse of your own, but they're the same thing. Same thing. Same thing, but they're different. Or we wouldn't have governments. We wouldn't even have the word government and then the word religion. We just have one word. Why do we have both? What is the difference? Now, I could ask you, where do we cut it? And some of you, I'm not going to stop here, but some of you might have a nervous system, especially if I had people in the city listening to this. They might say, now you've gone too far. There was some kind of trick I couldn't deal with. How could you cut between my inner self and my outer self, or where do you cut off between what is said and what somebody else hears? But, boy, you can draw the line between government and religion. You went too far. You stepped in it. My God, I did. Why do we have both? Why are they necessary? Why do people have to believe that they're two separate things? What is the difference? To what ends does life have things arranged? That apparently you are at one time giving your allegiance, tears in your eyes, saluting, as the flag goes by, as they play your national anthem. But then, a little later, you're saluting. You're on your knees, or you're prostrated doing some kind of Allah, Allah. A tear comes to your eye when you see a cross, when you see the scriptures rolled up, when you see some icon. And it's the same thing. Oh, no, it's not. It's two different things. Really? Why? What is the difference? Why are both needed? They're both, in a sense, I'm speaking now very generally for the people in the city, but it's an attempt to give, in two ways, the ultimate allegiance, the ultimate submission. Who is the most nationalistic? Who's the greatest patriot? And everywhere, you don't have to, it doesn't matter whether you're American or Russian, Chinese, everybody in the city speaks highly of a patriot. And forget that some of them go overboard. Everybody should be patriotic. Everybody should defend their homeland. Everybody should feel good about it. To be a Chinese, to be an Albanian. You understand that is a form, it's an attempt to submit to when it comes to a bigger dance, outside just me and my wife, and me fighting around, and me trying to get my children to cut the grass. When it gets to something a little more important, what I want to do, without any doubt, and I feel it, my heart pounds when the flag goes by, is to stand up and to know that the whole country, the whole dynamic, the whole concept of Bulgaria has me, and I'll dance backwards and love it. That's what a real Bulgarian is. What is the difference between that? Don't you see, to go in and to fall down and face Mecca, face Cleveland, and to pray and to say, help me, I give myself to you, to the guides. It's the same thing. It's an attempt at the ultimate submission. Life has a use for it. But why do we have them both? Let me throw in I hadn't stopped on this yet. Let me throw in a small pseudo ringer. Let me throw in a trio instead of a duo. An apparent trio instead of a duo. I can't. I won't. And I don't want to. Let's go back to the grand dance, since we can't get away from it. We're speaking of our leader, our liege, our king, our spiritual leader. Take either one of the forms of government you want. And the story comes out that our leader, back in the city, spiritual, temporal, that our leader is engaging in behavior that we would not have expected. He's engaging in behavior that he denounces. And then it said, from an inner sanctum, it is said, all right, now that the truth is out, now that this story is out, I've got to tell you, our leader can't do that thing. No, he can't do something that he has prescribed for everyone else. He can't do it. As opposed to another variation, another possibility. The story comes out. He won't do it. Our leader won't do it. We can't deny the story. You caught him. You got a photograph of him doing it. He won't do it. He won't abide by it. That would almost cover it, but I thought since we're getting to the end of side one of the tape, there's another possibility. What if somebody else said, you know what he told us when you called him? We knew that he'd done that before. He said he didn't want to do it. Is there a difference? There's some kind of damn difference, or there wouldn't be three ways of putting it. I can't do something. I won't do something, such as I made a willful decision. I made some freelance, unilateral decision. But then there seems to be almost another possible freelance, unilateral decision that's not simply that I can't do it, that I'm too weak, I can't help myself, I can't do it. And it's not just arbitrary that I say I won't do it. It's like I don't want to do it. Turn the tape over. All right, let's go from the trial. What I wanted to point out, I threatened to when we started. There should be a curiosity if you understood anything or getting interested on your own about the topography of life. Being able to hear life moan and groan and squeak and make noises, and that there are holes and there are gaps. There are places you can see between the joints of life's body. Places you can see where it has stopped growing, you can see where bones have gotten broke, you can see where it has a form of arthritis, and you can see where it is growing. But you can't see it if you're simply part of the muscles. If you're part of the nomenclature itself, you can't see it. You look around and all you see is like the pulling and the push, the leverage of muscles. You cannot see between them. You cannot see the action. You feel like that you are a part of the action, that the action is flowing through you, that you are a something. If you begin to see in these kinds of cracks, in these kinds of holes and spaces between the joints in life, you should find it interesting. Not just the duos, not just the unrecognized triaxial nature of life, not just that there are always three possibilities, three forces, three winds, three areas from which the actual energy driving things are drawn from, but this question of the lacking oneness. Now that I said oneness, I don't mean any of that New Age crap from 6,000 years ago and last week about the oneness of it all. Now I'm talking about this kind of oneness. The actual energy driving things are drawn from, but this question of the lacking oneness. Now that I said oneness, I don't mean any of that New Age crap from 6,000 years ago and last week about the oneness of it all. Now I'm talking about this kind of oneness. I'm going to bring it down where it makes sense to anybody that can hear it. Why are things not arranged, do you, figure of speech of course, do you suspect? Why are things not arranged with man closer than all other creatures of which you can be cognizant? That is, that there is a oneness of what a person should do. Taken to this point, and I give you my personal guarantee, this has nothing to do with morality, has nothing to do with original sin or curse. It has to do with you standing in line, waiting your turn, and having to shuffle your feet and whistle and scratch yourself and wear uncomfortable clothing oft times, wool that's gotten wet. And you feel uncomfortable, which is nothing compared to what's right over the hill. And you fight for position in line. And you want somebody to hold up a mirror, and you want somebody to tell you, look all right. Some of you want people next to you to go. But it's still not based upon a direct oneness. That's where I was taking it. To what end is life arranged that man is the only creature that you can see, that you can even imagine? You've never seen him, can't even imagine anything else. It's the only creature that's constructed in such a way that he feels and he believes that he is capable of acting in ways not in his own best interest. I love it after a long gestation period of some of these to save it for what I laughingly think of as a potentially auspicious night and do it. And it looks like a room full of new moons. Do you not find it interesting? Well, I'll use my, as always, imperfect and flawed, parallel man and any other living, moving, feeling creature going on. It's not to prove a point. It's not to say, aha, because compare this to a baboon or to a raccoon. It's not that. It's to think just the best you can do at city level is the complete structure, the food chain, the living ecology of the planet. That we got this one creature that's running on that level, apparently everything, smarter than any other creature. Just no comparison. And yet it's the one thing, the one creature, the one thing alive that can individually, and he has no choice when I say he can, he and she individually feels and believes that they are capable of action that's not in their own best interest. Don't say that was obvious. That's not obvious at all. It sounds simple, and you should have all heard it. But it is not obvious. It is not something the nervous system goes around whistling and thinking, I wish if I could put this to music, I'd have a top 40 hit. To what end is life arranged that it has this one creature that's serving a purpose obviously more complex? I'm not just going to say better. No, we'd have to take a vote from the raccoons and the hippos, and some of you might be disappointed at the outcome. But you've got this creature that's got more responsibility, more complex, has a sense of time, has yellow circuits, has a memory that he can verbalize, he can make sounds, and he can take invisible, non-material, as far as the eye can see, materials, non-material materials such as sound, and he can repackage and reuse energy and experience. But having said all of that, and anything else you want to say about man, I'd agree to. You know, what a wonderful guy he is. Got a thumb and all that shit, too. Can't beat him with a stick. Carl Worthington's never said anything on his lot like a man. Having said all that, do you not find it extremely, curiously interesting that this creature feels and believes? I'm covering both two great circuits, because the believing circuit, the feeling circuit, can fuel talk, that they're tied, that it believes and it feels that it can, that it can behave in ways not in its own best interest. What do you think all these duos are about? Did you think that I waited and turned the tape over and just suddenly changed the subject? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I don't normally talk to you either. How? Now remember, I didn't say that he does. Did anybody notice that? Those of you who never listen to me when I talk to you, especially directly, and say, would you meet me on Tuesday and wear a green shirt at 7:15? Gotcha. Gotcha, boss. I always know I'm in trouble. Real sincere, yes. Count on me. You know who I can count on. Do you think there was a point to that? Yeah, you're going to pick on somebody. No. How can things be arranged that I didn't say that people do operate against their own best interest? See, I knew what I said. Well, I knew I heard it somewhere because I said it. I said that man is the only creature that can feel and believe. Now, everybody, when I said man, I'm talking about everybody on this planet. And when I say can, you do understand I'm engaging in rhetoric. They got no choice. Everybody on this planet can feel, can believe that they can operate and behave in ways not in their own best interest. Everybody. The obvious, if I got to do this, if that were not true, you'd have no religions. All religion would be done for. Oh, they would. No psychiatry, no psychology, no philosophy. I doubt it'd be in fiction, which is just a cleaned up form of pornography, because if you could operate in ways that were not in your own best interest, never mind. Worry about those eye-popping Peruvians. You'd have no government. You'd have no laws. Because people that break laws, this wasn't on my mental list tonight, but why do we have laws? And normally it's described as it's a society. It's a group of people that get together and form a society, a government, to protect people from other people. Da 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 da. That's right. In the city, what they're doing is saying, we're going to protect you from harming yourself. Oh, along the way you might rob somebody else and kill them, but ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to make us kill you. So it's in your own best interest to abide by these laws. Why? If we got this great creature and life is using man in such an extraordinary, such a different, such a singular way here, I'll tell you one more time. Notice I have not said that he operates in ways not in his own best interest. But everybody on this planet believes that they do. If not right this second, they did 2 hours ago. They did the first 20 years of their life. They will at any minute. It's a part of being alive, that I can do things not in my own self-interest. If I said that in the city, they'd go, hey, tell us about obvious. You dumb shit. Come out here and tell us that you got something to say. Everybody does that. What do you think life's about? We're trying to straighten up, clean up our act. But see, they missed the whole ball game. That's life again hollering, hey, look over here. And everybody looks, and it's too late. Plus, there's nothing over there except the pseudo-obvious. That, yes, that's what life is about. To try. That's what all self-help's about, is to try and reach a point. Relatively speaking, I know I'll never accomplish in this lifetime, but to where I do not do things to my own detriment. God, I finished college, I got a good job, I had a good family. Now here I am on cocaine. 3 divorces, all my money's going for alimony. Whatever the story, even if it's not that glamorous. The belief and the feeling that I can operate, that I can behave, that I can, remember I did that little laugh, that I can do things not in my own self-interest. This is not obvious. It's in almost another direction, not the opposite of obvious. We're truly at right angles. We're truly at the point. It's a little beyond, come look through here, it's like you got to go ahead and go around the corner to even be able to understand what I'm trying to point at. How could this be? That, just take it. Let's be real simple. Let me speak at the city level. And right quick, a whole bunch of givens. The given is that man is the greatest creature going in this universe in 4 dimensions. And let me tell you, let's take this as a given, just for the sake of our philosophical debate here. That life is evolving. It's not regressing. And that man is the avant-garde of it. He is the carrier. He is the medium of it. Now, another given that conflicts, I know, in the city with general theory. But let's say, as a whole, humanity does not do things against their own best interest. Just follow me for a second. Then why has life arranged it that everybody, every nervous system, I don't care your culture, your race, your sex, it doesn't make a shit. Your nervous system feels and believes that it can behave in ways against its own self-interest. That's part of life of any intelligent person, is in fact to be on guard. That I could do it at any second. I'm prone to go out here. Now you forget all these great psychological things about getting married over and over to women that beat me up and steal my money. It's worse than that. I'll go out here and go to get my car, and between here and the car, I know me. I could step off the edge of the pavement and turn my ankle so bad, I'll be laid up for 2 or 3 weeks and probably lose so much money I'll get behind my alimony again. I do shit like that. I don't know why. I can't afford analysis, or I didn't stay in analysis long enough, but I fall and I hurt myself all the time. But don't we all have some part of that? And nobody finds that the least bit interesting. Oh yeah, and they say they do. They say, yes we do. Why the hell do you think I spend my money on analysis? Why do you think I read these books? Why do you think I come listen to crackpots like you trying to help me? But nobody finds the whole scenario. They can't see it. That there's something else going on here. Which, not only is it not expensive to see, like you don't need a psychiatrist, but as I keep hinting and even telling you, it's downright funny. But how is it that the creature apparently leading the great progress, the one leading all the animals onto the ark, the one who can stand up if nobody else shows up and stand on a mountaintop and say, I'm captain of my fate, commander of my ship, I am man, listen to me roar. He can say that. But any other creature on this planet can say one thing. If they could talk, they can say one thing that man cannot say. If raccoons could talk, worms, hummingbirds, butterflies, cockroaches, they could say one thing. If I was playing with reality, which I'm always doing, and we could make them get a glimpse, just a glimpse that you got, almost, some of you, just a glimpse of what's going on. They could say one thing. If you said right quick, here's the history. Let me grab your little cockroach nervous system, and I'm going to zap you, and you'll know all this. Can you see one thing? Humans are a lot smarter than you, and they'd immediately see that. They're bigger than you, but anyway, they're smarter than you. They got some talents, and they got some stuff going that you'll never get close. And I gave them this temporary consciousness. They go, yeah. And I say, can you see one thing, though, that you got in your ordinary conditions they don't have? Possums, lions, snakes. They'd say one thing, yeah. I have never had the feeling or the belief. That's what you called it. And I say, yeah. They'd say, I never had any sensation that I was going to do something against my own best interest. Is that what you guys would call it? And I say, you got it. You got it. And to them, for those few lingering seconds before this little momentary magical consciousness went away, I assure you that if little snakes had little hands and things, they'd go, wow, that's weird. That you guys are in charge, and you keep thinking you're doing stuff against your own interests, and of course that would almost blow a little snake's mind. Like, would you hear me at all? It's to imagine they wouldn't know what to say. How? Why? What word fits? But why? How could anybody do something against their own best interest? And they try to think, what do I do? How could I translate that into worm behavior or raccoon behavior? Worse yet, if they had a few more seconds just before it went away. Not just how could I translate that into behavior, because that just wouldn't compute. There's no way a raccoon is going to do anything against its own best interest. But right those lingering seconds was, well, that I just can't even deal with that at all. But the last one is, how could I even feel or think it if it wasn't true? I bet some of you at least have been around long enough that even if you don't understand, that you could almost pre-hear, assuming I was going to wrap this one up, this paragraph, you could, I bet, pre-hear some of it, such as this. I'll go ahead and do it. Would you suspect that that situation of man being in this singular position as opposed to everything else of which you can be aware through your senses, that he is in charge, more complex, just have no fear. On a 3D level, if I don't ever see most of you again, most of you are superior to snakes and raccoons in a general scheme. I'm not going into, and I'm not going to debate it, and I'm not going to go testify for you if they get you in some dire straits to where you do have to prove that you're superior to a raccoon. Don't call on me. I'm pretty busy lately. But taking that as a given, this whole thing about believing and feeling that you are capable continually of actions not in your own best interest, would any of you already imagine I was going to say, here I go, that that is in some way tied directly to the fact that man keeps struggling that man will continually try and manipulate the environment, that man does see everything in dualities, that there is an in here and an out there. There's a right way of doing things and a wrong way of doing things. There's a way of looking after your best interest, and there are ways that are perhaps not all that profitable to an individual. That man would not be the part still chafing. He would not be the part still standing in line and having some knowledge that over the hill, I know where this line's going, I don't think about it. And nobody else does. But think about, of all these goddamn Mickey Mouse chicken shit problems that everybody in the world has, whatever they are, don't write me and tell me that I shouldn't call your problems Mickey Mouse and chicken shit. Oh, all right. Donald Duck and duck shit problems. They are all on this basis, or you should start looking at them this way. How in the world can things be arranged? What if you were still religious? What if your nervous system back at the line level is still that strong to you, calling out about your God, your Jehovah, your Allah? That things are arranged so much like that. What kind of curse? Forget all this thing about throwing Adam and Eve out and making them go get a job and wear clothes. That's bad enough. But in some way it has now, that life arranged human nervous systems to where everybody has the belief and the feeling. No other possibility, no way out. They don't even analyze it. Nobody questions it. It's reality. That I am capable at any moment. Right now I got to watch it, of doing things that are not in my own best interest. What kind of goddamn gods are those? And I don't mean some direct shaking your fist at some old imagined man. It's what kind of complex scheme is arranged here. It can't be as simple as saying, well, follow these rules and then you'll go to paradise. Then when you die, you don't actually die. Anything that's this complex to begin with, doesn't it strike you as a little strange that, well, it does seem a complicated life here, but I'll tell you the answer, son. The answer is, nobody knows. That sure is a simple answer for things to be so complex, arranged in such obtuse, obscure, pedantic, circular fashions, and the simple answer being, when you find the world's smartest man, philosophy, theology, whoever he is right now in the city, what's his answer going to be when you present him? You say the weight, at least philosophically speaking, of the world is on me, and I wonder what's going on. I read philosophy, I read religion. Tell me, you're the man, you're considered the wisest man alive. What's the answer? Son, I'm going to tell you, nobody knows. That is the ultimate wisdom. How can there be such a simple answer to this? Of course, such a simple, unsatisfying answer. But how can there be? I was trying to give you a hint. Again, you should find it extremely curious. And it's not psychological, it is not individual, and you should know all this. When I got you here under some decent circumstances, what few we have anymore recently, that you do know it's not singular with you. You do have a grave suspicion, all of you by now that's been around here at all, that all of your torments, all of your bad dreams and all that, is just worldwide. It's just breathing. And many of you on a good night or a good moment somewhere in life, you even have grave suspicions now about your old nervous system stories that they are singularly induced in you by past experience. Some of you no longer can really swallow that. It just does not ring true. It doesn't sound right. You hear what they're saying. That is, you hear what you're saying in your own nervous system, and you no longer think I'm misinterpreting. As a matter of fact, I hear it very well. I hear exactly what it is, and it does not work. Or as they might say in the city, it does not compute. This answers nothing, and it takes me right back where it started. In the midst of all of that, if you could ask yourself in this particular way, how, for what possible reason, to what possible end is life arranged that me and everybody else alive, that their nervous system, that the very energy that makes us alive is the very energy that tells you, makes you feel, is the first stage if you want to look at it in a 3D sense, but then it's accepted here. It's accepted. It's written down as psychological theories or approaches, plausible stories, that people here and there, to varying degrees, will, under certain conditions, do things that are not in their own best interest. People that commit suicide. People who continually scar themselves, just they'll suddenly pick up something and tear up their flesh. Forget all that. Take the psychiatrists themselves, the psychologists writing this stuff. Priests, rabbis, ministers saying, well, humans will go out and do things against the God's moral laws and therefore damage themselves by drinking, fornicating. Don't worry about the ones that seem to be the extreme. It's everybody. Everybody. They feel and they believe that I am capable, at any moment, continually, of doing that, not in my own best interest. If you could hear the obtuse, the complex simplicity of that, you would be very, 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 very curious. And to begin to get a glimpse. It's not psychological. It's not local. It's not just true with Americans, British. It's not just true in this century. It's not just true with people who have education. It's not just true with people who are dumb. It's not just true with men. It's not just true with women. It's true with everybody. That I can do things. There's no doubt. I got proof. I don't need proof. I can feel it. I can do things not in my own best interest. I can show you. Hand me a cigarette. Give me a drink. Find the phone number of that girl that tried to stab me the other night. I'll ask her for another date. I'll show you. I mean, I'll do that. I know that. Jesus, God, I need help. And think about it. Humans are running the city. Humans are running the planet. And notwithstanding some of you people's great faith in the National Enquirer and such, you know, humans may be running a lot more of the universe than you even want to think about. Well, most of you can't believe that we're running the planet, so I don't want to tell you anything else. You think that we're going to destroy the planet and all that shit, that we don't know what we're doing. So I don't even want to hint. Maybe someday I'll tell you what UFOs are. Except, well, I thought about it before, but it goes so far in a right angle. The closest I could come to putting it in words to you, it goes at a kind of right angle area where normal physics falls apart. It has to do, I'll give you a hint, it has to do with the eye being able to see its own reflection. But then you got to know how it could do that, and that's where it gets kind of sticky. But back to something in real life that's important. That the thing that seems to be in charge, UFOs notwithstanding, the thing that seems to be in charge, one and all of them feel as though I can do things not in my own best interest. What in the world, if you still believe in gods outside the system? How about the forces, the native forces that produce the universe, whatever it is? How could everything else seem to operate? Stars don't run into each other. Don't somebody write me and tell me that they know they do. You can find no creature, all the way from what seems to be animals on this planet, to larger scales. You do not see the universe committing suicide. You don't see animals tripping. You don't see anybody. And remember, it's not the behavior. I'm just having to point out what you can see, because I didn't even say that man does it. Remember that. But you don't see any sign that any creature anywhere. You don't see raccoons. Well, you do. You'll see them with a log across the thing, and you'll see them, and you'll see them look. And it's like they're judging. They don't even need yellow circuits about, can I make it? Is it worth the chance? And they either do or they don't. But you do not see a raccoon go and sit down and light a cigarette. Or you don't see a raccoon look at it and like he's pondering it all and then go, well, like, you know, I'm such a fuck up, I might as well. And sure enough, he takes one step and he falls over. All right. Well, see, I got you laughing again, but now you got to remember this. A raccoon can step out there and fall off. That's not the point. It's not behavior. It's he doesn't think it. He doesn't feel it. Raccoons are continually falling off. Lions trip. I say they don't. How did animals get killed? On our highways, out in the jungles themselves. They don't just kill each other. I've seen birds fly into trees. But they do not feel it or think that they're capable of behaving in any way that is not in their own best interest. And of course they didn't. It was simple life had no further need. It got extincted on some individual level. But don't let that throw you. That's not even the point. It's not the behavior. It's not the human's behavior. It is this strange, almost impossible to perceive feeling and belief in everybody that you can operate in ways not in your own best interest. If I were to drop dead now, any of you that had any possibility of ever managing to spit, that one thing should just grab your attention like a pit bull. How in the world, to what ends? What possibly, how are things arranged in a way that's completely beyond three-dimensional consciousness, that's going out somewhere that I can't get my sights on yet, that things are arranged in such a way that down here, we're just getting part of it, that down here all humans believe that they're capable of doing things not in their own best interest. Why would life pick out a creature? I almost have to go back to your old ideas of an outside God. Why would a God pick out one creature or develop one creature and put him and her in charge, and that's the very ones that are capable of believing that they can fuck up, that they got to watch what they're doing all the time, that they'll do things to harm themselves. And he did that, and then he said, all right, the rest of everybody else, mountains, trees, rocks, streams, raccoons, the rest of you guys, smooth sailing. You know, other than death, and they don't even know about that, so no need, but he just says, you know, go to it. Not a worry in the world. They never believe, they never feel that I got to watch what I'm doing, because there's been times that I did not operate in my own best interest. That's beyond the term it doesn't compute. It's just not true. It's not even correct. And then the very creature that seems to be singular, the one that seems to be in charge here, has this continual feeling and belief, beyond any discussion, beyond any attempted analyzation, that I continually, any time, just any moment, I can do things not in my own best interest. Why is there such a feeling? Because me bring up the why earlier tonight. Why is there a difference that the belief that I can do things in my own best interest, or I can do things, as proven by experience, but I can do things not in my own best interest? What's the difference? We're back. As you noticed from the tape that just stopped, I had decided just to cut it tonight, but I think I will at least bring you the one that was, if I'd continued, would have been the climax, would have been the wrap-up. But I like the one where I left you already. But the duo that I was going to use as a wrap-up, had I not switched over to talking about the lack of a one and about the unrecognized dynamic of people feeling and believing that they can operate in ways not in their own best interest. Had I not concluded there, then I was going to conclude here, I think, that I could have called it for the time being the ultimate duo, the one that I could have tied everything else to tonight, or if I would do it again. And that is this duo, the difference between reasons and excuses, which, if I were to continue tonight, I can take everything I have said tonight regarding duos and everything else, but specifically regarding duos, and wrap it right there, and wrap it around your neck if you could hear it, because there seems to be two different things. Most people in the city, I'd suggest to you, I'm not going to talk about this except for a second, but excuses are non-valid reasons that somebody else has. But think about it, in case I never even mention it again. As far as the human nervous system is concerned, those are two different things. If somebody says, why didn't you do so-and-so, you can have a reason. I'm talking about a reason now. I'm not talking about some Mickey Mouse, you know what. A reason. And then you can ask somebody else. And you can say, well, sure, you had an excuse. I got a reason. What is the difference? A reason is one that you will accept. An excuse is one that you figure nobody else is going to accept. A reason is one that you believe that everyone should buy from you, and a reason is that which you will not accept from somebody else. How about the difference between what is said and what is heard? Nobody gives excuses. Anybody tells you why they didn't do something, they gave you the reason. But that isn't what you heard. What you heard was an excuse. No, you didn't hear me right. I gave you, no, I'm not playing with some excuse. I'm telling you why, because I thought about it. And I'm telling you the reason I couldn't do it. No, you're telling me an excuse. You're not listening. Yeah, I am. It's an excuse. Well, you can call it that, but I'm giving you the reason I could not do so and so. Is that not a duo? Is that not a duo to write home about? That's better than Smith and Dale, Laurel and Hardy, peanut and butter. That is a duo to remember. And there is every difference in the world. Everyone's convinced of it. There's no doubt. The world's full of people giving me goddamn excuses. That's all I get, is excuses. Now, what is it you deal in? Well, normally I live up to my obligations, but if something does happen that I do not, I can tell you this. I can tell you this without any great fear of contradiction. There was a damn good what? Reason. Not an excuse, a reason. What is the difference? Get away from, as always, the apparent, the implied city that one of them's negative. One of them is one you don't like. Or an excuse is one that's just invalid. A person being irrational. It's based on their own self-interest at my expense. It's something I will not accept. It is not a valid reason. It's an excuse. There's a difference. There's a difference. What is the difference? When is there even the appearance that they're two separate things? By number 2, son of by.